2 decades in prison for her role in a massive international drug operation that involved a Mexican drug cartel bringing narcotics into Minnesota. Jessica Hart joins us with more on the case.
Julie, we all know how hard it's been to stop the flow of fentanyl and other drugs into Minnesota and surrounding states. And the people bringing it in don't always stand out. Sometimes they blend right into the crowd.
Men have long since dominated the brutal world of the Mexican drug trade. Power is measured in blood, loyalty, and fear. However, right under the noses of the thousands of trained killers and scoundrels lies a secretive and sparse group of equally cruel criminals. Women operating in the world of crime, rising to power and orchestrating criminal empires, and in some cases, meeting violent ends. These women aren't just lovers and accomplices, but active participants enthusiastically taking part in the criminal horrors. In this video, we will go over the life and times of multiple of these elusive criminals, and we will see how they challenged the status quo, and how, despite it, they kept up the act of maintaining the systems that oppress them. Watch as ambitious women cast their morals to gain power at the cost of the ultimate price. Born in the squalor, die in the squalor. Many criminals are born into lives of crime and are often killed because of the crime. The conditions that raised them and the ideas instilled within them as children have forced countless people into lives of crime. Most often, men are the ones tempted into crime because they are often forced to be breadwinners. In the case of Sandra Ávila Beltrán, she was born into one of the most infamous families of the drug trade. She was practically destined for crime. Most women in her situation wouldn't have made the drug trader their main priority. However, Beltrán had different ideas. Her uncle was the legendary Miguel Angel Félix Gallardo, the founder of the Guadalajara Cartel, and was one of the first major drug kingpins in Mexico. She grew up handling money and helping with the logistics of the drug trade. Accounting and finance were strong suits. It fit her. As a woman, she was not trained or made ready for field work, so she was trained and taught in the ways of planning and administration. She was a high-ranking member of her cartel, and as one of the few women in the cartel she drew attention. This resulted in her getting married twice. Both her husbands were killed in assassinations, an occupational hazard. She wanted control, power, and respect. A lot of the things that were often not granted to her due to her gender. If no one would give these things to her, she would take them for herself. Because of this, she was highly motivated in her work. She would quickly rise the ranks, and eventually she found herself in an extensive connection with many members of Mexican cartels. A result of this, she was quickly able to rise through the ranks of the cartel, coming to positions of power that were often out of reach of most other recruits. Her luck ran out in 2007 when she was finally arrested in Mexico City. Authorities had been trailing her for years, and she was charged with drug trafficking, money laundering, and organized crime. However, despite her reputation as a powerful cartel figure, the prosecution struggled to prove her direct involvement in specific drug deals. One of the most bizarre moments of her trial was her claim that she was merely a housewife with no connection to organized crime, an argument that didn't quite hold up given her extravagant lifestyle and deep cartel ties. After spending 7 years in prison, she was extradited to the United States in 2012, where she pleaded guilty to aiding a drug trafficker, but was released shortly after due to time served. She returned to Mexico and was arrested again on money laundering charges, but was freed in 2015. This is the case of real-life villains. This begs the question, how many of these people are criminals? Some of them may be lying for clout or social media fame. In the case of Claudia Ochoa Félix, she may or may not have been lying. She was an online social media influencer who styled herself around the cartel, posing with luxury cars, items, and other expensive things. This was in addition to making posts with pictures of drugs and firearms. Taking this into account, it's easy to believe the lies and think that she does work for the cartel. However, thinking about it, Renting cars or trying out expensive things isn't as expensive as it looks, and there are more than enough replicas of real weapons and ways to fake the appearance of owning or using drugs. It's more than possible that she knew that if she showed herself off as a member of the cartel, she would get lots of views online. To sell this image, she went by the name La Emperatriz de los Antrax, the Empress of Los Antrax. For clarification, Los Antrax is a militant group of cartel members within the Sinaloa cartel. They are often used to carry out hits and other violent crimes. It is believed that she might have been a successor, the group's leader, Jose Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa, El Chino Antrax. In 2019, she was found dead in her home. There are no direct pieces of evidence to suggest foul play. She had died from an overdose due to suffocating on either her saliva or vomit. However, speculations and rumors are going on that the cartel wasn't pleased with her conduct and either falsified documents to draw attention away from them, or that they might have forced her to overdose on drugs, possibly holding her at gunpoint. Not everyone in the cartel is as fake as our Empress of Anthrax. Some people don't feel the need to show off their wealth. Some people like to operate in total secrecy. Enedina Arellano Félix was born in 1961 into the infamous Tijuana Cartel, a cartel that was forged in blood and violence. Her family was one of murders and mass killers. They were not unfamiliar with violence and showing off. However, they were unfamiliar with subtlety. Unlike her brothers, Enedina was special. She was smart and cunning, and just as importantly, she was well educated. She studied accounting at a private university in Guadalajara, where she excelled. After graduation, she quickly found herself getting involved in her family's work. It would initially seem like she would be ill-suited for the business. Expectations were wrong. She found herself becoming a crucial part of handling the finances and logistics of the cartel. She was the shadow of the Tijuana cartel, a shade operating in the shadows, wiping cleaning money and mass killings, organizing finances and handling the business of violence. The thing with crime is that criminals are figures who lurk in the shadows. The sun is where the light of the law is, and one by one, the high-flying brothers of the Tijuana cartel were either killed or imprisoned. Each of them had been so used to operating in the open that they weren't ready to handle the wrath of their competitors and justice. Soon, her family's leadership crumbled. However, in the collapse, Enedina was spared. She took full control of the cartel around 2008, and now she operates the cartel in secret. The glory days of the cartel were long since gone, and they couldn't afford to waste their time, money, and resources with meaningless violence. The gang would operate using money laundering, bribery, and corruption, making the cartel more like a business and less like a gang of warmongers. The world of the Mexican cartels is brutal, bloody, and unforgiving, a place where power is earned through deception, violence, and fear. And yet, despite the overwhelming dangers and the deeply ingrained patriarchy of the drug trade, these women carved out their paths. Some, like Sandra Ávila Beltrán, leveraged their family ties and intelligence to climb the ranks, while others, like Claudia Ochoa Félix, blurred the lines between reality and spectacle, using the cartel's fearsome reputation to fuel their legend. Enedina Arellano Félix, on the other hand, proved that true power lies not in flexing wealth and violence, but in working from the shadows, controlling the flow of money and decisions with quiet ruthlessness. But what does it all amount to? In the end, crime is a game with only two outcomes: death or imprisonment. The few who manage to escape either fate must live in exile, forever looking over their shoulders. The truth is, the cartel world is not kind to anyone, regardless of gender. It swallows people whole, leaving behind only stories of their rise and fall. So, while these women defied expectations, took control, and in some cases left a lasting mark on the underworld, the question remains, was it worth it? For power, for money, for survival, they gambled with their lives. And as history has shown, the house always wins.